Anon 8109. If you had never heard of Hubbard and Scientology growing up, how would your life have been different? I like to imagine, given your curiosity, penchant for critical thinking, and philosophical inclinations, that you'd have made a good student at university. With your natural charm and ease with people and your desire to be helpful and make things better for others, I wonder if you'd have been attracted to fields such as medicine or psychology, or maybe you like the idea of teaching. Well, thank you for those very kind words about me. I was on a path to be a writer and a teacher before I got sort of waylaid into joining Scientology and then, of course, joining staff right out of high school. I don't know what my life would have been like without any Scientology because my parents got involved so early that I wouldn't have had parents as a family together without Scientology because it serviced them and got them back together when they were divorced when I was very, very young. So my whole world would have been very different. But I think I still would have had those same, inclinations that I had. I think I would have still been me. And I had a real thing about writing when I was a kid growing up. I was a voracious reader, just absolutely tore through books. Read, probably thousands of books while I was a kid growing up. And I started writing, and I really liked writing. And of course, I had a lot of imagination. I played Dungeons and Dragons. I was very into imaginative concepts and fantasy and science fiction and things like that, and sort of these far-reaching concepts. So I also, as a writer, in the 80s, I really loved Stephen King. Loved him. He's kind of tapered off for me at this point, but his early works, I still just love them. And I really liked his writing style, and I liked how he told his stories, and I liked the kind of stories that he told. Dean Koontz also, and Robert McCammon, and these guys, I really idolized them as horror fantasy writers, and I wanted to do that. And so what I did was I modeled my future career path after what Stephen King had done. I figured that was a pretty good way to go. He had been an English teacher in school, or he'd gotten himself into being an English teacher, and then he wrote stories. And he was the starving artist, struggling with his wife in a trailer and this sort of thing. And he was writing his stories, and they eventually got published, and then he made it, they made Carrie, his first story, into a movie, and then he broke huge. And I saw that, and I went, well, I could do that. And that was exactly what my plan was. And I was writing in high school. I got from a regular, I tested at a regular English level for whatever reason, but I was writing so much that my teachers were so impressed by what I was doing. They put me in the honors English program, and so I was in the upper crust classes of English and whatnot, and so I was studying lots and lots of highbrow stuff in high school, and I planned on going on to college and doing the same thing. So that was basically going to be my career path. So after I got out of Scientology and started looking at what I wanted to do with my life, one of the first jobs I got in Minnesota was I was involved in property management, which was just really paying the bills. But I started writing again. And I had done writing in the Sea organization, copywriting, promo, recruitment pieces, things like that, but not real writing. And I never had time to sit down and write stories. I made various stabs at it over the years when I was in, but never really had the time or the effort that it really, really takes to sit down and write, because it's work. It's hard work. So once I got out, I started writing again. And of course, I was very motivated to write about Scientology. And so I found myself writing nonfiction. And that's how I started doing what I'm doing now, is I started a blog, The Critical Thinker at Large, right? I'm in criticalthinking.com, and which was originally for the Minnesota Critical Thinker. And then those articles that I was writing turned into my first videos, because I was not getting the exposure through my blog that I wanted. And so I started doing videos. And so now here I am. And of course, all of this is written by me and turned into me writing my first book, which was, to me, one of the proudest moments I've had in my whole life, because it came full circle for me. Going into Scientology, I lost that dream, and coming out of it, I went back to that dream and I made it happen. And I know I've got more books in me, so that's going to be happening in the future. So I think that is, I think that was always kind of the direction that my life was going to take. If I hadn't been influenced by Scientology, and if it hadn't happened to me, I probably would have worked much more on fiction, and maybe at some point in the future I'll get into fiction writing again, because I had a lot of ideas for fantasy, high fantasy, dark fantasy, horror, science fiction type work, and I still do love that stuff. And that's probably where my life would have gone in the direction of. And if it had gone in the direction of philosophy, maybe, I could see that too. I could see that happening. But I think Scientology kind of, in a way, put me in that mindset, kind of put me in a path or a direction of looking at people, and that desire to help was really, that was fanned a lot as a Scientologist. And so coming out of Scientology, that desire still exists. And so here I am doing what I'm doing.